I just saw the news of ESPN laying off a bunch of people on air talent. Steve Young, Jeff Van Gundy, Max Kellerman has gotten the axe. Jalen Rose has gotten the axe. Keyshawn Johnson has gotten the axe. Matt Hasselbeck axed. Susie Colbert, longtime host for Monday Night Football. LaFonso Ellis, he's been there a while. Todd McShay, esteemed NFL draft analyst. David Pollock, the Georgia Bulldog. The Neil Everetts, the Rob Ninkoviches, the Chris Chelioses, their contracts were not renewed.
Over the past several years, man, I personally lost a lot of interest in ESPN's daily sports content. The First Take format changed the sports game, but then they took that format and just ran it into the ground. They didn't offer much in a way of alternative but high-level content outside of the debate format, and the personalities they brought on, even if they were unique and creative individuals, once put into the system, pretty much nothing that system produced felt fresh or unique, and I think that's why a lot of people lost interest. With that said, man, I noticed like when I'm doing research for like a What Happened To style video, those ESPN articles, as far as their writers, a lot of them be on point. Salute to them, man. Good writing, nuance, saying things you really believe. When it comes to sports TV content, I consume it like most of the world, through shorter clips online, sometimes with completely fake titles. Other clips I usually check for, first things first. First things first is just the vibe. Like they somehow manage a comedic approach while still making compelling arguments. And as humans, bro, we all got our BS. And I like that show because they can call each other out on their bad takes without somebody going to the back and crying to the producer. I also like how her dude does a 3-hour show every day on TV and radio. And though I might not always agree with him, I think he has an interesting approach. So I watch his clips as long as the segment is not too J-Mac heavy. Now, admittedly, Undisputed was never really my flavor, but I always did understand why people liked it. And don't get it twisted, every now and then I'd always check in to hear my two crazy uncles had the same damn argument that they've been having for the last 7-8 years, until someone crosses the line and the argument turns to a fight. Lines are crossed, feelings are hurt, and then it's just not fun no more. But just kind of going through my lineup of the things that I'm watching, I noticed that I don't watch a lot of ESPN content. I don't mean any offense, but I'm just not really into the over-the-top pro wrestling style caricatures they love. Well, I do enjoy when they go way over the top with the costumes and everything. This is a different level of commitment. I'm just talking when they at the table and their voice is on 10. But the argument's bad and it feels like the preparation was on 2. Then it feels like they gotta try to crack jokes just to get through the segment, because nobody has any actual good points or breakdowns. So when they announced that they were canceling a few shows, I'm thinking, okay, here we go, you know, a much needed shakeup. Cut out some low performers, bring in a few new shows, or go to the signature move, which is just put Stephen A on everything. But I didn't really expect this mass exodus. And after watching names scroll all day like the ticker at the bottom of the screen, eventually the reality started to set in. These are people who had dedicated years of their lives, and they're having their careers take a massive, embarrassing, public, unexpected detour. Now, some of these dudes haven't shown a drop of empathy to players over the years who got released from their contract. They shrugged at star running backs who couldn't get a decent second contract. It was a part of the game until it became a part of their game. But of course, there's others who have shown nothing but class, showed up day in and day out and put their best foot forward. Those a lot of us who do this online stuff now grew up watching and wanting to be like. Now, so much time has passed and we've found new mentors, new inspirations, and a lot of us have forgotten them early days. But dudes like Neil Everett and Scott Van Pelt, and rest in peace to my personal favorite, of course, Stuart Scott. When I think about the imprint that all these people have left, my heart goes out to them. Like, they did a lot for the game. So before we jump into it, I just want to wish them all the best. You're all beasts in your lanes, and I hope you land on your feet. I got a feeling this will affect the entire sports media landscape as a whole. Alright, real quick before we jump in, a quick word from today's sponsor, SeatGeek. They got 70,000 plus events daily on SeatGeek. That includes sports, concerts, festivals, and more. If I can swing the ticket prices on this Drake and 21 Savage concert, that might be something they got on here mid-summer that I want to check out. But when the NBA, NFL, and NHL seasons are full swing, bro, you not gonna want to miss out. Now, SeatGeek always want to make sure you get in a good deal, so when you're on the app, remember to look for the green dots. Green means a good deal, red means a bad one, simple stop-like logic, so you can't really mess it up. Now, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and they're the only app that lets you return tickets with the feature called swaps. And I came through for you as always, so use my code FlemLo, and that'll get you $20 off your first tickets at SeatGeek. Again, that's $20 off your first purchase when you use my code FlemLo at the SeatGeek checkout. Make sure you click the link down in the description and download the SeatGeek app today. Man, shout out to SeatGeek once again for sponsoring the video. Without further ado, it's time to jump back in. I got a feeling this will affect the entire sports media landscape as a whole. Whether you got an $85 million contract now backing you, or you still out here thugging it as a solo creator. There was a time when mainstream sports media would turn up their noses at online sports media. But over time, these two worlds meshed seamlessly together as the online scene is giving new life to sports TV. The formats are just perfect to be filmed all at once, and there's a dude working the camera, a team working the lights, a producer to help come up with ideas and do research. Then you got another small team that's gonna break those segments down, do all the uploading and metadata. You can get a lot of content out fast. It's like a kingpin drug dealer versus a local startup. What you need, they got your 30-second clip, your nickel clip, dime clip, a full ounce, which is the stripped audio that's an hour and a half long. The perfect length for a podcast, you just plug and play it, baby. They got you covered on every platform, on every single format, and all these people already seen you before on TV. You can come online and see that, and then you mix that in with the local startups like your Urinating Trees, your 5 Points, your KTOs, your That's Good Sports. But the mix has always happened through the TV guys hopping online and getting some of that audience. But this ESPN exodus now comes on the cusp of the first instance where the opposite happened. So Pat McAfee takes his show from YouTube to ESPN. And just to clear up any confusion, I think it'll still be on YouTube. But I've seen a lot of people say, pretty much everybody I talked to said that ESPN is firing these people to make room for Pat. So like, I think that contains a drop of truth, but ironically it's been shaped into a story that Disney should be proud of, because people are sticking to their storytelling principles, the classic storytelling where there's gotta be a clear villain. Because of that, it's super easy to latch on to, oh, they cut those people to make room for Pat and to make room for And while they could ultimately add both of them by the end of this, I don't think the timeline really vibes well with that theory. See, all the way back in February of this year, reports came out that ESPN was bracing for a painful round of layoffs. These layoffs were mandated by Disney themselves, who, of course, is ESPN's parent company. So the plan has been in place for a while, it was seen. Not to mention they made cuts back in 2015, again in 2017, and in 2021. But with that said, all those layoffs combined don't come nowhere close to this last round of layoffs. So this article dropped in February, and at that particular time, most people thought that Pat McAfee was still happy in his FanDuel contract. Skip and Shannon had seemed to survive this moment, as Undisputed continued to be one of the hottest shows out. But then the next month in March, it was reported that Pat McAfee might have been looking to make a split from FanDuel. At the time, ESPN couldn't have been more than a small blip on his radar, if they was getting picked up on his UAV at all. But regardless of whether he was having backdoor talks with ESPN or if he was going to Amazon or staying with FanDuel, bro, either way, these ESPN cuts, it looked like they was gonna happen no matter what. In April, as we got closer, now just 3 months away, the layoffs began in a much quieter way, especially when you compare it to this last round of cuts, which felt like opening day of sports media free agency. See, the cuts 3 months ago didn't include on-air talent. It was all back-end people, so the people in the building would have definitely felt it. If you watch ESPN religiously, you might have noticed the difference. But if you just watch clips online, then you probably didn't notice. So that April round of sweeps focused on back-end talent making anywhere between $2 and $5 million per year. But at the time when these cuts was taking place, it was stated back then that there would be yet another much larger round of cuts coming. And this one wouldn't just include, it would primarily focus on-air personalities that ESPN deemed expendable. So if they're cutting shows and personalities all together, it comes down to what it always comes down to, you know, money. We all grown. If you ever budgeted, you know when you're looking at your funds, there's a couple ways to approach not having the desired amount of money. You can look to spend less, you can look to make more, but most of us like to find somewhere to settle in the middle. Okay, I'm cutting this expense, which ain't making me no money, and I'm moving some some of the money I save into a brand new investment. So practically that might look like I spend less money on DoorDash and I use that money to pay for an online certification. A concept we all understand is just on a larger scale. So sorry Saints fans, man, I'm about to hit y'all with a light jab, but I'm only making this comparison because I hear it from every real Saints fan I know. But I like to believe that most companies don't operate like the Saints, where it seems like every year they just winging it financially. I don't think the convo started like, oh damn, Pat's a free agent, let's just fire everybody to create some cap space. I think the larger decision was probably already made that we're gonna get rid of some old shows and bring in some new stuff. Next thing you know, Pat become a free agent, found an opt-out in his contract, and then boom, things happen. We're clearing this space anyway, why not bring in a superstar? We're trying to teach our radio personalities and some of our TV personalities how to make it in this online world. Why not go get a guy who's already proven in that world? His numbers are publicly visible, we know what he'll bring to the table. In some respects, the sports media industry is reminding me of the rap game. You went from back in the day, labels would discover and develop and break new artists, but just like sports media, slowly over time, the internet took that format and flipped it on its head. Labels started signing acts who already had a fan base, so by the time they sign the artist, they already know what they're getting. But that introduces a problem. If that artist or sports media person already has a fan base, thanks to the internet, they can monetize and have a business and really be straight and be in a position where they don't need the label. Unless the label offers you something you don't get when you're independent or you don't get when you're a YouTuber. What am I talking about? Security, which in most cases primarily comes from a large sum of money right up front. I ain't gonna lie, it's kind of weird seeing the sports media landscape follow the exact same pattern as rap, but there's also comfort in the fact that this has happened before because that gives you some insights on what might happen next. I wouldn't be shocked if in the very near future, TV networks start offering online personalities what would essentially be a 360 deal. If you're unfamiliar with what a 360 deal is, that's when a music label signs an artist to a particular type of contract that allows the label to get a percentage of every piece of revenue that comes to that artist from pretty much every source. That's streams, album money, touring money, merch. But for the online sports media guys, it'll probably look more like this. You get a TV network watermark on all of your videos, with the idea being that that affiliation will bring you more credibility. They might run a few of your segments on their streaming only sites, but their favorites, you probably get a couple of spots on the big network. You get a decent signing bonus like right up front, and the early adopters will probably get the biggest signing bonus, and eventually it'll become like more standardized. The catch would be they get a percentage of like everything you make. That's ads, sponsorships, and maybe even your merch. And don't get me wrong, that could be a big win for a creator if the deal is structured right. If the percentages are relatively small and they're not trying to interfere with the way you make your content, if done correctly and fairly, that could actually work for both parties, you know, in the right situations. But it could also be a colossal ass L if the deal is structured like a 2015 YouTube MCN. But somewhere within the next 2 weeks to 2 years, I think the echoes from this exodus will reflect through the whole industry. So if you're a person who consumes a lot of sports media, just expect your worlds to continue to collide. And when your favorite online guys get some mainstream love, show them support, because it's hard as hell to get to that point. And when your favorite TV personality gets cut from their network, just make sure you're on the lookout for their brand new podcast or their YouTube channel, which will be popping up shortly after. For people like me that's working towards the bottom of this industry, these are terrifying but also really exciting times, because now the competition is steeper than ever, but also the opportunities are bigger than ever. Like Destroying, dude's working with the NFL and XFL. Tom Grossi's 30 teams in 30 days thing was fucking fire. And Pat McAfee, while not a traditional YouTuber since he was majorly famous when he started his channel, has still become, I think, the first creator in the sports media landscape to go from purely online to a multi-million-dollar contract. It's crazy, and this is gonna open doors for more people, perhaps changing the YouTube endgame in the sports media niche. But from this point forward, as we watch our worlds collide, I say just embrace the turbulence and try to enjoy the ride. And when I started this video, I had absolutely no idea it was gonna go in the direction that it went. I hope it added something, man. I don't know. Added something to the conversation, but those are kind of just my thoughts, my feelings on it, and where it takes me. So, hope y'all felt it, man. Peace.